It'll work, right? The vaccine.
It's a little late to start wondering.
What is the value of a vaccine? That is the question we're going to explore today using TV's The Last of Us. My name is Matt Rousu. I am an economist at Susquehanna University, and with me is perhaps one of the top video content creators of economics in the world, Chris Clarke. Chris, thanks for joining.
It's a real pleasure to be here, man. Always fun to chat. And Last of Us, what a great show.
During The Last of Us Season 2, as it drops on HBO, check this out every week. We'll be dropping new episodes, and so like and subscribe and all the stuff. And so Chris mentioned we'll talk about the value of vaccines. Let's just jump right to the clip, and then we'll see what do we learn.
There's a Firefly base camp somewhere out west with doctors. They're working on a cure.
I've heard this before.
And whatever happened to me is
The key to finding the vaccine. That's what this is. We've heard this a million times. Vaccines, miracle cures. None of it works.
It'll work, right? The vaccine.
It's a little late to start wondering.
I tried with Sam.
Tried what?
I knew he was infected. I rubbed some of my blood into his bite. I know, it was stupid, but
She's being prepped for surgery.
What surgery?
Our doctor, he thinks that the cordyceps in Ellie has grown with her since birth.
Why is she in surgery?
It produces a kind of chemical messenger. It makes normal cordyceps think that she's cordyceps. It's why she's immune. He's going to remove it from her, multiply the cells in a lab, produce those chemical messengers, and then we can give it to everyone. He thinks it could be a cure, Joel. A cure.
Oh, man. It's so heavy. It's so heavy.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty intense stuff. I guess this would be a good time. I can't really fathom anybody is watching this who hasn't really watched The Last of Us. But if you have, naturally, there are going to be spoilers when we talk. So everybody's been
that last episode's a doozy. It's a doozy.
Yeah, that last episode
rips your heart out.
So, recap for those, once again, I assume everybody's watched The Last of Us, but just to recap, a fungus has infected the world. There is no cure for it. It can be transmitted. It's mostly through bites, but there are spores that could transmit this, and
nobody's immune. Nobody's immune. So it's not
nobody
like
is
some diseases
immune.
there's no cure, but like some people are immune. Nobody's immune except Ellie. Ellie's the first one to be immune that we've ever come across.
Yep, she's the only known person who's been bitten and hasn't turned into this monster. And we saw an example of the monster. And thought that this would be an interesting spot to start in the series because they're discussing vaccines. In economics, we would talk about vaccines as a public good and the value of them. But I'll start. I don't know if you'd like to start by giving the definition. In economics, how would we define a public good? What would we be saying?
Paul Samuelson came up with this definition, and it's usually what we do. It's got two properties. A good can be, it's in their fancy words too. A good can be non-rivalrous, meaning if I consume it, it doesn't prevent you from consuming it. So an apple, if I consume an apple and I eat it, you can't eat it. But if I enjoy, a beautiful sunset from nature, or if I enjoy a fireworks display, or in this case, if we enjoy public health, you're healthy, I'm healthy. When we interact, we're not infecting each other. That is a public good that we have long recognized. So that's one aspect that we both can enjoy it at the same time without both consuming it. And then the second one is non-excludable, meaning you can't stop people from doing it. So for, say, a fireworks show, maybe you could have a little perimeter to be close to it, and you could charge admission. But for public health, you can't charge admission to enjoy the public health. You can't stop people from enjoying it. So if you live in a safe neighborhood, you can't stop people from enjoying the safety of the neighborhood or the safety of the city.
You don't get to put a bubble around one person and saying you will live in a more dangerous bubble within this
Yes,
neighborhood, right?
yes.
Yeah, that's impossible. And so if this vaccine is created, all of a sudden it's going to have this just transformative value for the world. Right now, you're in a world where everything is destroyed and everybody's in fear and you can't go out at night. There's areas you have to stay away from. If throughout this, there's a point in the series where it looks like there's a decent neighborhood and the house caves in and there's all sorts of infected below who charge
Yeah.
out and attack
Yeah.
everybody, right?
Yeah, so actually we got a couple of public goods. We have the public good of the health, so you don't die, but you have a huge safety public good happening as well.
Yeah.
So I think at the very beginning of the show, we open up in a kind of a fascist authoritarian society. And fascism's terrible, but one thing it did do is it provided a level of security. It kind of took everyone's freedom away, but you were safe from there. So there's two levels of public good happening, the safety level and then the health level.
Public good. So because of these properties, right, that
Hmm.
somebody else could consume it and it doesn't decrease the value and you can't prevent it, you
Yeah.
run into what we call the free rider problem. If it's created, there'd be an incentive that not everybody wants to pay for it. Like the classic examples often of public goods that we would talk about are clean air and military defense, or or safety, right? Those are two of the common ones.
And scientific production as well. Because see, all of these things will be created by the private sector at some level. Yeah, I think Facebook built a bridge, for example, once or something. Uh, so the private sector, there's private universities that'll do private. There's private laboratories. There's private efforts for all of these things. But the question is it enough relative to the benefit it brings to society? So it costs society a certain amount of resources to produce it, and then it benefits society a certain amount. And if you add both of these things up, public good will be underprovided by the private sector because there's not enough
Yeah.
private benefits to justify the private spending.
Yeah, each individual would get some value from it, but they don't want to spend all the money to create it when they only get that
Yeah.
small amount of value,
Suboptimal.
often referred to as the free rider problem.
Yeah.
I haven't even tried in my mind to conceptualize what would this vaccine be worth
Oh, in this scenario, in The
in
Last of Us,
this scenario.
trillions and tens, hundreds of trillions of dollars.
Yeah, it would completely.
The global economy today is $100 trillion, and most likely the economy we're seeing here, maybe it's 10% of what it was,
Sure.
20% of what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
So it's $80 trillion right there.
Annually,
Annually.
all the
Annually.
time.
Yes.
Every year in and year out, and I don't even think we're putting in the idea of what's the economists value a life and how much
In
lives are
addition to
worth,
just
right?
GDP. Yes.
If we're
Yes.
just thinking
Yes.
GDP, if you throw that in there, it's not even calculable, and I don't. Well, it is. We're economists. We can estimate it,
We
but
do,
it's
but
it's
there
enormous.
it is. And there's people in environmental economics who try to estimate what's
Yep.
the value of the clean air and biodiversity and these things. And they try to, but in the end, it's the only planet we can live on. So it's infinite in
Yeah.
once you get to
Yeah.
some aggregate level.
So
So,
so I mean, it's interesting to throw this back. I mean, I think the closest parallel we have on the value of vaccines would come from a recent experience with COVID. And, these didn't, you know, they've been overly politicized, right? But
sure.
what the value of the vaccine in terms of getting the US economy back going and the world economy back going, even though the vaccine was not, I remember when I first got it, I thought, oh, I'd get the vaccine and I couldn't get COVID then for a year.
We
Or,
were
like,
hoping.
and it didn't quite work that way, but it worked a lot
Yeah.
better. And when I eventually did get COVID, it was a lot more minor and all of that stuff. The value of the COVID vaccine might be the closest. I don't even know exactly what came up with the value of the COVID vaccine to society. I don't know if you know any of the research on.
So no, I don't have any numbers off the top of my
Yeah.
head, but I would say easily trillions,
Yeah,
in the low trillions just for the American economy.
an NIH report said it, estimated it could reach 9 trillion, just
Yeah.
as a very quick search.
Yeah. Is that just for the American economy? 9 trillion?
Uh, I think it's
Or is
world.
it the global economy,
I think they say
9
it's
trillion?
world economy, 9 trillion. But now, once again, that could be factoring in just the economics, not
Not the lives
value of
saved.
lives, right? If
Yeah.
you have something that saves lives and each life,
Yeah.
The estimate on those ranges often from like $6 to $10 million based on people's own choices in terms of how
Yeah.
economists have
Yeah.
valued.
Yeah.
You throw that on and all of a sudden it's, that could
Yeah, it's
have
pretty
an
substantial.
order of magnitude.
I mean, yeah, there's a whole debate about the shutdowns way back in early 2020, and I think what's his face? He's at Wyoming. He was one of these co-authors of one of these studies that everyone started citing. Sjogren is the
Oh, yeah, Jay
economist from
Shogren. I
Harvard.
worked with Jay a lot actually. On
Oh, okay.
I'm with on my dissertation, so I've co-authored a bunch with Jay.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so Sjogren, his paper that went famous was so shutting the economy down was very expensive, very expensive, trillions of dollars. It harmed us in spring 2020. But then you add it up because at that point, no cure, no treatment, no nothing at the time. So people and you had
Yeah.
overcrowding of hospitals. So you have kind of those externalities going on. So people were dying for non-COVID reasons because the hospitals were all full. But he says it was like 5 times the benefit to the cost in terms of shutting down, in terms of the amount of lives that they're kind of just using fairly standard epidemiological models.
Without doing the deep dive, I think it might have been from Marginal Revolution discussing in hindsight, right? Hindsight's everything. We hadn't dealt with a
Yeah.
pandemic. I think
Yeah.
the routes to go. I don't think we took the perfect route on this. I would have argued,
Sure.
in hindsight, I would have argued more of the Sweden route, but that's hindsight being where they
Sure,
really did
sure.
everything okay, if
So
you're
I
in
I
high
asked
risk
him.
group,
I asked because he was presenting at C-Tree one year, and
yeah,
I raised my hand and I asked the question because it was years later. I said, "Well, we've learned your paper came out in spring 2020, so
yeah,
like, have we learned anything since? It's been like 3-4 years or however long it's
yeah,
been." And he was like, "Well, we realized that we saved more elderly in terms of the demographic. Young people weren't really dying from it as much,
sure,
and
sure.
and then you have to get into these questions of what is the statistical value of a life for the elderly." Versus young people, and people don't like making that calculations for moral
Oh,
reasons.
it's tough, and like
Yeah.
how costly were the school shutdowns that state
Oh
extended on
yeah.
kids over
Yeah.
time, and like what's the
Yeah.
economic cost, the life cost,
I mean, these things are
mental
up
and
for debate,
emotional.
but my opinion is I think the school shutdowns were too strong.
Yeah,
The I
yeah,
mean the cost we're seeing from those is it's because the risk wasn't there. The kids weren't dying,
yeah,
and uh we didn't see we worried about teachers, right? But I haven't seen any evidence to show that the teachers were exposed or more at risk.
yeah,
But the education costs we're going to feel for 30 years
yeah.
at
Yeah,
least.
I think you're right. I think you're right. We're seeing them at the college level now, and
We
that's going to
are
keep
at the
happening
college
for a
level. We're
while. And
we're seeing them
all
right now.
all of
Yeah.
this rabbit hole we've gone down on like the COVID costs really shows us on The Last of Us. I mean, like the vaccine is the value is enormous.
So we
Just
have to talk. We
enormous.
have to talk about Joel's decision at the end. So spoiler, right? We have
Yeah.
to. We have to.
Could I raise before Joel's decision one more
Okay.
quick thing?
Sure.
The other economic concept I think this brings up is the idea of a positive externality.
Okay.
When you get if a vaccine is it created and people start to use it, well, those people won't become these monsters, and because the individuals who get the vaccine are all of a sudden they can't become the monsters. There are fewer monsters that could hurt the people who would choose not to actually get the vaccine. So it's often said that vaccines have a positive externality, a positive side effect.
These
Like if
network
you,
effects, these positive network effects.
yeah, yeah, and so like for example for COVID, if for whatever reason you couldn't get the vaccine or you were
You,
terrified that the vaccine was really going to harm you. If
yeah,
90% of your community got the vaccine and then they didn't spread it, you actually benefited from
you
that. And
would
that's
benefit from
an
the herd.
another
The
economic
herd
concept we
immunity.
talk
Yeah,
about.
the herd immunity. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is this is a huge econ concept. And well, now it gets into some policy implications. If that herd immunity is really strong, because you're going to have portions that can't take it because they're allergic to it or they're immunodeficient or something.
sure.
They're even if they wanted to, they couldn't take it. So
Correct.
then you have to the public benefit from you getting the vaccine is bigger than the private benefit, but it's
Right.
costly. And I mean, the government subsidized it, and like everyone says that's the right thing to do to have it be free, but that's not enough. And I don't think it was enough because when I take the COVID vaccine, and I get it every year now, it knocks me out for a weekend. So I
Yeah.
get the one in one arm the COVID and one arm the flu, and that weekend I'm feeling miserable. And that happens every year, and I have to kind of plan for it. But
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
real cost to me. So, and I'm not really compensated for that. Like, yes,
Yeah.
I won't get sick, but is that enough of a benefit for me relative to the public benefit me being
Sure.
is?
That's a fair question. couple of colleagues of mine, Nick Clarke, who's at Susquehanna in political science, and then Jay Corrigan, who's at Kenyon College. We did a study, and this was on flu shots in
Okay.
2020 in September or early
Oh,
October,
okay.
because we didn't
Yeah.
have COVID vaccines. But we actually paid people who hadn't had the flu shot, or we actually ran an auction. How much would you need to be paid? And about
Yeah.
half of them said, "Hey, I'll get it for free." The other
Right.
half gave a positive value, saying, "No, I won't get it for free." Which
Yeah. I think it's
ironically
true.
actually matches up with about the numbers that get the flu shot each year.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That said, most of them, it wasn't that high of a value. 90% of the sample would have done it for $20 or less. So it
Really?
wasn't a huge amount.
I'd like $100. It's a whole weekend here.
Yeah. It's a,
but I guess
this
I'm
was just
doing
the
it for
flu
free
shot,
now,
though.
right? So
Yeah.
but
So
I do it for kind of this moral obligation now. Once I realized that 60,000 people a year die from the flu, I was like,
Yeah.
oh well, fine.
I don't think there's. I agree with you though. I don't know that there's. I think there's not much more we could do. I think than getting the flu shot specifically year in and year out in terms of public health, and the
Or reducing,
economic
yeah.
benefits are large, and social benefits. And I hadn't thought about the moral benefits, but you're right. If it lowers our chance of spreading it, that's a good point. We're doing the right thing. So I like that.
Right. So that's why I do it.
Joel's decision. Why don't we, for everybody here, we'll show Joel's decision. Huge spoiler here.
Okay. Yeah.
Find someone else.
There is no one else. Walk him out to the highway, leave him there with his pack. Give him this. If he tries anything, shoot him.
The fuck are you doing? Keep walking. I said keep walking.
Where is she? Fuck you. I don't have time for this. Unhook her.
How did you get in here?
I said unhook her.
I won't let you take her.
Unhook her.
Oh my God.
Cover her arm. Fast. Turn around.
Oh, no, wait.
Let me go.
You just come after her.
Joel takes action here. What are your thoughts when Joel
Okay.
decides to space? Joel saves Ellie and
Joel saves
decides,
Ellie, and Joel loves Ellie has saved Joel. Ellie has given Joel meaning in life, right?
yes,
So he's found a reason to live. He's a brute. He's an evil person. He has been an evil person in the past. He doesn't want to be an evil person anymore, and because she's given him a reason to live. So what's your moral system? So this gets into moral philosophy and all the different ways we can think about what's right and what's wrong. In economics, thanks to like Bentham, but particularly John Stuart Mill, we largely are utilitarian in some form. So most of our economic analysis, we take cost, total, add up everybody's benefits, add up everybody's costs, and kind of the Enlightenment idea that everyone is equal. Everyone's benefits are equally important. Everybody's costs are equally important. Or every human is just as important as any other human. And again, that's a very John Stuart Mill thing. You don't get that till like Enlightenment period. And if you do that, it's just obvious that Joel's a total monster. He's probably one of the worst humans to ever live. Because
that's fair.
if if this would have saved the world, and if Ellie did this knowingly, if she consented to it, then yeah, it's not just the fact that he stopped the ability to do the vaccine. Do you know how much human capital he destroyed? How many doctors he murdered in order to do that? And this is a world where human capital is scarce. There's no like modern medicine schools anymore. So
It's interesting. Yeah, first, I don't think Ellie consented on this, and in
oh,
order
you
to
think
go
that
in.
she knew she was going under, but she probably didn't know she
I
was
don't
going
think
to
she
probably.
thought she was being killed here there.
She's
No,
gonna.
I don't think there's evidence of that.
Uh,
And you could see Joel. I don't think Joel wouldn't have brought her there if he thought that,
no,
right?
he
I
wouldn't
mean,
have.
Joel
He wouldn't
Joel
have.
brought her to this place, so I don't think that part was there. But there's still the question of lives trade-off. You'd only have to put the odds of success at what, 1 in 1 million? Like, is there a 1 in 1 million chance this works? And purely
Yeah.
lives trade-off, you'd probably say it's worth it. But this isn't just any life. This is Ellie's life to Joel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy scene at the end, and it's weird. You look at it, if I abstract from it, I'd be like, it's horrible. When I'm watching it, I'm thinking like, go, this might be terrible, but I'm like, Joel, he's saving essentially his daughter here, and he against what he perceives as the monsters who want to kill her. So that,
Yeah, and this is the whole discussion, the trolley example where when pavement comes to the road, we're not egalitarian utilitarians. Most of us aren't. We
yeah.
value our family, we value our kids first, we'll value our spouse, then we'll value our siblings, our parents, and cousins, and you kind of do this kind of thing where you slowly start valuing people who are more distant from you. And there's like genetic studies that are biological studies that have done this. I mean, I think I remember reading one about a squirrel. If you're a half sibling or something of a squirrel, you're more likely to like just call a predator towards you to save like your relative than you would if it was a squirrel who wasn't a relative to you.
Really? Okay. Yeah. No,
I
that
mean, I read it
makes
in a book a book
yeah,
that was
yeah,
written 20
yeah.
years ago. So I don't know if it's true, but that's what I read once. So like we are kind of genetically predisposed to save the genes that are similar to us.
Yeah. And I guess they're not technically related, but by this point, Ellie is Joel's daughter, essentially. I
Yes,
mean,
yes,
yeah, that by
yes.
all. So pretty powerful clip. Thought it's interesting to think about the vaccine from more of an economic point of view. I hope those watching liked this. But Chris, any closing words of wisdom before we wrap up this video?
This is bringing us all back to all the big debates we had 4 or 5 years ago. Public health is a public good, and it has to be subsidized by the government. Research, development, and putting rules and regulations in place to promote, there's kind of trade-offs with private freedom,
Yeah.
but private freedom comes with a public cost. And I think the basic harm principle that we don't have freedom to harm other people is important to keep in mind.
Yeah, and in terms of what could the government be doing now, I think anything that would lessen an impact of a future pandemic has
Yeah,
so much value to society that
so much.
it's you know if billions a year are spent, it down the road, right? We looked at a figure of 9 trillion, which doesn't sound out of line. It's a good investment for, minimizing future lockdowns and all the stuff we had to
Yes.
endure. So, well,
Yeah.
thanks, Chris. Thanks again. This is part of a series. Chris will be joining me. Chris Clarke. You can check him out on TikTok, is where most of the videos are made. We'll put the link in the description. Economists at Washington State University. Chris, this was a lot of fun, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Me too. Econ Chris Clarke on all the socials.
On
Cheers.
all the socials. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video.